This morning about whether Fulton County DA Fani Willis, her top prosecutor, will stay in charge of the Georgia election interference case into Donald Trump. The judge just heard testimony yesterday from Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade's former law partner and divorce attorney, Terrence Bradley. Trump and his co-defendants hoped Bradley would provide testimony that Willis had a romantic relationship with Wade before she hired him, posing a possible conflict of interest. Instead, Bradley testified more than a dozen times that he didn't know or didn't remember details about that relationship. The judge has scheduled another hearing for Friday. Lisa Rubin's back with us. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney Danny Cevallos. Lisa, you said yesterday that Bradley was either lying, speculating, or covering for Willis and Wade. Did he provide any clarity at all here or just further muddy the waters?
I think he muddied the waters a lot because he was either, as I said yesterday, lying and or speculating when he communicated with Ashley Merchant over text about the origins of the relationship and how early it started, or he was lying on the stand yesterday because he was deeply discomforted by having to testify essentially against his former law partner and, even more troublingly, his former client, Nathan Wade. So I think it was a wash. The question is, where does that leave the defense in establishing a conflict of interest? I don't think they're any further along in showing that there was a conflict. On the other hand, if Judge Scott McAfee finds that Bradley is a liar, is that enough for him to create enough doubt that he wants to see things like the phone records that Trump's lawyers have offered to provide to him?
Danny, what's your assessment of where we are right now?
Yeah, building on what Lisa said, I think Judge McAfee really has two choices here. He can conclude, if he does conclude, and my sense is he didn't find Terrence Bradley credible. Well, let's say that's what he concludes. He might conclude, well, he didn't say anything, and therefore there's no additional facts that bolster the defense's case here. That's a possibility. Or what if he says, I find this witness and maybe the other witnesses not credible, and as a result, I will infer the bad things that they were trying to hide. This happens all the time. I hate to tell you that people get on the stand and lie all the time, and juries are instructed that if you don't find that person credible, you can imagine all kinds of bad things are actually the truth based on their false statements or their lack of credibility. So that might be really one of two options. And it really is the ultimate question here. What will Judge McAfee do with what I think, just based on his body language, that you saw many times he would stop questioning, like, look, you've made your point. I think he was saying you've made your point that Terrence Bradley is being evasive and he's not going to answer the defense's question. So what will Judge McAfee do with that? Really, it begs the question, what if the prosecution in this case, let's take a step back, we're weeks into this, what if they had said from the outset, you know what, all this is true? What if there was a relationship? What if it predated Wade's appointment? What if Wade did take Fani Willis on vacations and he paid for them? So what? Because all this resistance, now they're almost in exactly the same place they would have been, except now some people have taken the stand and they've come off as less than credible. You argue the law under Georgia, this would be a close call, even if everything the defense was saying was true.
Not only is there the focus now on the prosecutor and the special prosecutor in this case and not on the defendants, but like you said, it just is getting kind of worse, and the lack of clarity here is troubling, right? If this case is to go to trial at all. We've had days of hearings on the issue, and so yet another one come Friday. Why can't the judge make a decision at this point? What more does he need to hear, Lisa?
Well, there are two things. One, they're entitled to have some closing argument on their motion. Remember, how we got to this place is through an underlying motion to disqualify Fani Willis. And I want to just push back a little bit on what Danny said. Even if everything that the defense is saying is true, it still has yet to establish that there is a disqualifying financial conflict of interest that disadvantages the defendants here. And so that is the question for Judge McAfee. Is there a conflict of interest that hurts the defendants, doesn't hurt the people of Fulton County, right? We can say that what happened here was ethically suspect and that the voters of Fulton County or the residents there have been hurt thereby. But that's not the question. The question is if it hurts the defendants. So he'll hold closing arguments on that. Then he will also hear argument on a motion that Trump's lawyers filed that so far has been ignored, which is he argued that when Fani Willis went to speak to a church earlier this winter and denied some of these allegations, that her rhetoric was itself disqualifying because she accused the defendants of their own racism in putting Nathan Wade to the test. That forensic misconduct motion will also be argued on Friday. And finally, they will have some argument about whether the phone records that Trump's lawyers seek to admit are relevant now. The evidence has been closed. McAfee said, I'm not going to hear expert testimony on that, but you're going to have to convince me that that is still relevant to my decision making.
So, Danny, best case scenario for Willis looks like what?
Well, best case scenario, there's so many things that could happen here. Boy, it's hard to say. I mean, is it possible that she's disqualified? I think the odds are slim. I think the law is actually in their favor. Although Judge McAfee has made reference to the appearance of impropriety, let me just give an example. Georgia has special prosecutors. These are private people that are appointed and they're paid. You could make an argument that every single one of them, because they're billing by the hour, has an incentive to over-prosecute a defendant. And yes, Wade apparently has been paid over $500,000 so far. I've taken court appointments. That's an astonishing amount of money, but that really doesn't matter. The point is the mere fact that a prosecutor is making more money the more hours they bill prosecuting a defendant is not a conflict of interest. It never has been. Special prosecutors have been around for a long time. So then if I'm the prosecution, I argue that, well, if the money going to Wade isn't an ethical violation, then it can't possibly be a violation when he takes her on vacation. Again, these are arguments they could have made months ago. They could have said, look, all this stuff, let's say everything you're saying is true. We're not going to fight it. Let's argue the law. They might have had a shot. Now look where they are. Now by possibly submitting false statements, they may have gotten the defense just a little closer to actually winning this long shot motion.
Danny Savalas, Lisa Rubin, thank you both.